Forbes India and Indeed present Top 30 Talent Leaders of 2024.
My name is Mino Thomas and I work with Adobe. I globally lead the people operations and strategy for Adobe, and I head India talent acquisition. I've been in the industry for a little over 21 years. People economics is one of the most important disciplines you could ever be in. Your ability to look at people, your ability to look at productivity, and how it relates to the products you make, how it relates to the services that you render, or how it relates to anything around manufacturing, etc. It's always fascinated me to be in that space, look at it very holistically, look at the people side of it, the productivity side of it, the technology side of it, and bring in logic from my engineering background and apply into these spaces and see what we could develop and what we could create that could really help turbocharge enterprises and companies to get into a new zone. That's always been something that I've been fascinated about in the people space. I've had the privilege of being across different regions, right from India to the Americas, to Europe, to the Middle East. Just looking at different culture and looking at the nuances in each region and seeing how we could develop a people strategy and how we could really hire talent in a way that it relates to that particular region has been something that I've always cherished. I love technology, the use of technology, the use of AI, the use of everything from a systems process that's available and that could be thought about to really amp up the space has been a highlight as well. And the problems that I've got to solve, all the problems right in my 21 years of working, the problems that has really been very meaningful to business to solve is definitely a highlight for me. It's a very interesting question because of multiple reasons. We are right now in a space where the rate at which technology is evolving and getting adopted in likewise functions, for example, like the CMO organization or a sales organization, to what we do within the HR fraternity is at a different pace, right? The CMO organization is probably very evolved in terms of using technologies to hyper customize their messaging, segmenting their market, the way they do their outreach vis-a-vis what we do from an HR space. I think there's a lot to solve there. There's a lot to really look at. And that's a great opportunity for talent leaders across the board. The ability to look at a long tail and hyper customize your message in a manner that it's relevant to somebody, engages the person, excites the person about the opportunity, and truly enables us to really hire the right person from a culture fit perspective. I'm sure that's on top of the mind for everybody. Along with what do we do with biases that creep in when we use AI? How do we take care of the hallucination? What's the right way of really investing in technology versus investing in people? How do you really create a high-touch people process and still have technology embedded in it? So there are multiple problems to solve for, but all exciting problems, and this is like a storm in a teacup for everybody to solve for. Technology helps in terms of scaling that, right? You aren't talking about 1,000 people. Like at Adobe, we engage over 20,000 people in talent communities, and technology helps us in terms of engaging with them, getting across to them, looking at engagement matrices. And like I said earlier, truly enabling us to hyper customize our message. For example, if someone's interested in, say, CSR, it's important that your messaging to that person is more around CSR, right? But if someone's more interested in terms of the core of a business, how do you send the right message to that person so the message is true and intentful and engaging for a person? So that's one area in terms of your outreach strategy and your enablement around creating something called talent communities. Technology helps us in terms of broad basing our reach and aggregating and giving us a sense of who's the best to reach out to. There are millions of applicants that come to jobs, right? And you need to have a way to really distinguish the best out of the rest. And this is for inbound talent. How do you look at inbound talent and how do you really achieve through them and know exactly who are your right population of people to go after? Technology would help you do that. And let me also put a caveat there, because technology can also bring in bias, right? Because if somebody has written a CV extremely well, that person would come on top, while somebody else who hasn't made the CV great but is a great resource would not come on top. So you got to also think about ways in which you are looking at these biases and removing them, and truly ensuring that AI is not a filter, but a suggestion mechanism to get to where you want to get to. Technology can help a major role in terms of helping you simulate interviews for your candidates, helping them go through an environment in terms of understanding how the interviewing at a particular company would be, get them very comfortable with what it is. And so they have a very comfortable right through the interviewing process. You shouldn't have somebody who's not being able to crack an interview just because the person feels the person is not well informed or not simulated through an environment of the interview. So how do you really get that whole comfort element across to a candidate sitting out there? We use technology quite a bit in terms of looking at our offers being made and how do we engage with them and ensure that they have a ramp up time even before they come on board. So the productivity is much quicker than otherwise. Technology could play a major role in terms of market intelligence, right? How do you really look at your market, know which region to invest in, know which space to look at spaces where there's a lot of outflow versus inflow. So a lot of AI work around how could you work suggestive mechanism around your workforce strategy is also in place. So right from talent marketing to segmenting to talent communities to engaging to interviewing, and truly the ability to do it all at scale and standardize your process, yet make it tailor-made for that one person sitting out there and lace it with just the right amount of high touch is what technology does for each one of us. And it's a thrilling space to be around technology at the moment. One of the enterprises that I worked before, we were hiring for sales roles, and interestingly, we weren't able to hire women into the role. And we did a lot of analysis in terms of why would we not be able to hire women into these sales roles, and we had all the usual suspect answers in terms of, there aren't enough women out there who are looking at enterprise sales roles or retail sales roles. It's a high-tech company, and hence, it's tough to get people who are already in that particular zone. We went back to the basics. We worked with the sales academy. The enterprise had a sales academy. And what we did was we worked with them and tried to identify what would a successful profile look like if we were to remove the gender bias from it, right? Just look at what does successful profile look like. And we enlisted the top few skills and the qualities that would make for a great salesperson for that particular role. I'm not getting nuanced in this. And then we brought in the big 5 personality traits and put in a sales score for each person that we would interview. After doing a study for 6 months, we looked at our data point. And interestingly, when we looked at our data point, what came out was for a diversity or a woman to get through a sales role, the sales score on that sales on the big five was a little north of 84. And for a non-diversity, for men to get through, the score was 74, right? It was interesting that now we had data and number that spoke about the fact that there was a 10-point bias, an unconscious bias that existed in the system to select a woman as against a man. And we went back with that data to the managing director and spoke about that data. And it was like an eye-opener for the person. What it did was it enabled the business to really look at a blind side. And for us to really look at ways in which we could then look at a more rubric-based assessment based on the sales academy work and assess people on that and bring in women into the role. We moved the needle from 6% women to 22% women in a span of 18 months. And that was purely based on changing the game around how do we assess, what do we assess, and what good looks like from a process perspective. So there are multiple anecdotal examples like this, which is very close to my heart because it's one thing to run a show and do big numbers, but it's another thing to really change the status quo and help people realize using data what probably is a blind side and how do we really get across and do something different. Absolutely. First of all, the first principle has to be the fact that you got to be extremely curious about people, right? Your ability to relate to behavior and how do you really get people to do things and how do you understand behavioral economics. If you have a handle on it, it's a great place to be. Please be savvy with technology. There's no way you're going to run away from technology. Your ability to adopt, your ability to think, and your ability to relate to a problem using technology and people is paramount at the moment. You got to 100% be comfortable making uncomfortable conversations with business and with the enterprise. Because if you are expecting comfortable conversations, it's definitely not the space to be, right? So your love for people, your love for economics, your love for technology, and your love for data, coupled with your non-averseness to critical thinking and uncomfortable conversations is what should really be your pivot in terms of deciding if this is a space to be. HR at the moment enjoys a very strong position in every enterprise. I mean, I haven't seen over the last 4 years is when I saw the whole trend towards a startup looking at a CHRO in the top 5-6 employees as you start, right? The first 5-6 employees as you start. Earlier, it used to be like, you start your enterprise, you get it to 100, you get it to 50, and then think about an HR coming in to play the role. But truly, there's that whole understanding of how strategic HR is and how could this really inform your sustainability as an enterprise, your sustainability as a culture that's winning, your sustainability in terms of running a behavior that really matters, and keeping things coherent. That importance has never been high as much as it is right now. So it's a great space to be, but it's also a challenging space to be. It's no easy job to be a part of anything HR, unlike people think about it.
Forbes India and Indeed present Top 30 Talent Leaders of 2024.